Welcome to Michael Potts Formula One. Everything Formula One, but from a photographer's point of view. Round 5, Miami. This is going to be a little bit different to your average Formula One race review. What I'd like to do is show you a few of the photographs that I took during the course of the race weekend, Lewis Hamilton. This is a photograph of Lewis Hamilton standing in front of the Hard Rock Stadium. The first thing we need to address about the Miami Grand Prix, and there's no hiding this, the location of the racetrack. It's inside the Miami Dolphins football stadium car park. Miami is a very, very cool city, and there are lots of places where a race could have been held which might have been more exciting, more visually appealing. Formula One has a very checkered history of holding races in car parks in America. This one, I think, kind of broke the mold. The race organizers have done a phenomenal job of transforming the car park into something spectacular. We have a very interesting circuit with a lot of challenging corners, and they've even managed to find some elevation. Charles Leclerc. Because the track takes place inside a car park, the designers had pretty much a blank canvas on how they designed the track. They have used some existing roads, but for the most part, they've had free rein on how the track is laid out. There was one part that was quite tricky for the designers. This is where the track needs to make its way under an existing set of overpasses. Now, Formula One has a set of restrictions about how high any bridge or overpass can be above the track, and it was exceptionally tight in this area. The designers managed to solve this by creating a chicane around turns 14 and 15. This creates a very, very cool corner to shoot from. You've got cars coming over a small rise and then coming into a blind corner as they go through the chicane. We're able to get pretty close here. There's a very cool transition between the shadow of the bridge and the brightness of the rest of the track. Lewis Hamilton. I spent a whole session photographing at the chicane because there's quite a few different shots that you can get here. This is Lewis Hamilton going past the two overpasses. These add some dynamic lines to the photograph and you give it something a little bit extra. I really like this composition. Max Verstappen. Here's a shot from a little bit further around the corner. Here I had to lie in my stomach to get as low down as possible. So I'm shooting the cars as they come around the corner at grass level. I like this angle. It gives you a sense of the big skies in Miami. Lots of the clouds, there's some palm trees. It has a completely different feeling to the previous shot, even though those were taken probably about 20 meters apart. It was a bit of a tricky shot to pull off because you're lying down. You don't really have much arm movement, so panning becomes quite difficult. Celebrities. The paddock was teeming with celebrities. Here's a photograph of David Beckham. He was visiting the Red Bull hospitality suite. There was quite a beautiful moment just after this where he met up with Jerry Halliwell. Obviously, Jerry and Victoria were both in the Spice Girls, James Corden and Lewis Hamilton. This is taken just outside the media pen. James Corden was a guest of McLaren, and he's done a very cool video of his time at the race. But here he is talking to Lewis. I'm not quite sure what is making James laugh, but it appears Lewis has 3 watches on. So is it those? Is it one of the watches in particular? I don't know. Michael Douglas and Charles Leclerc. The driver that sets pole position gets a tire presented by Pirelli. And there's often somebody who comes along and signs it and presents it to them. And in this race, it was Michael Douglas. For this shot, I've tried to do something a little bit different on the edits. Miami has quite a distinct graphical tonal identity. And I was trying to capture that here, really pushing the greens and the pinks. Charles's final run in qualifying was a phenomenal lap, and he managed to snatch pole position from Max Verstappen. Charles has been phenomenal all year in qualifying, but the Ferrari seems to lack a little bit of something to the Red Bull in race pace. The fan zones. Because it's in car park, there wasn't anything for the organizers to work with. So they pretty much had to create all of the fan zones from scratch. There were beach areas, there were bar areas, really good food zones. All of the fan zones had something Miami about them. Probably the most controversial one was the marina. Instead of building a marina, or at least an area with water, what they did was create a fake marina. They built a platform, covered it with a photograph of water, and then placed real boats inside it. This was absolutely ripped on social media. It was different. You'd have to ask somebody who watched the race from a boat whether it was a good idea or not. It's not quite Monaco. I believe the costs of getting the boats to the track was phenomenal. They had to be transported at night under police escort. One boat was so large they had to build a custom ramp over the track to protect it because it was so heavy. It's going to be really interesting to see if they do this again next year. Max Verstappen. I got this shot just as Max was coming out of the pits. Max had a difficult couple of races at the start of the season where he was beset by mechanical difficulties. We can see that the Red Bull is very, very fast. I took the shot with a pretty wide angle lens and you have a nice view of the crowd in the background. It shows you how close the spectators are to the cars. It's a very, very cool track from a spectator's point of view. Mick Schumacher. This is a photograph taken at the chicane. Mick's got one wheel in the air, which makes it quite cool. There's a little bit of spark going on. Mick's had a difficult start to the season. He seemed to have the better of his teammate last year. Nikita Mazepin. But this year he has a new teammate, Kevin Magnussen, who is more experienced in Formula One, but he's really doing a lot better than Mick. Mick hasn't scored a point yet, and it feels like that pressure is starting to tell. Mick's starting to make a lot of unforced errors, maybe overdriving the car a little bit. In this race, he had the opportunity to score his first points ever. He made a very reckless overtaking attempt on Sebastian Vettel, which knocked them both out of the race. Hopefully Mick can turn it around. He's a hell of a nice guy, but time is running out for him to prove that he deserves to be in Formula One. Jamie Chadwick, one of the sports series, the W Series, kicked off their season in Miami. The W Series is a women's only championship. All the competitors race in identical cars. Jamie Chadwick is the defending champion. She again showed her class. She won both of the weekend's races. She's an absolutely phenomenal talent and really deserves to be racing in Formula 2. Hopefully she can get the sponsorship she needs, get a top quality drive, and then make her way to Formula 1. It'll be phenomenal to see her competing there. Esteban Ocon. Quite a few of the drivers got caught out in turns 13-14. This is free practice 3. The day before, Sainz had a big crash here, and Ocon seemed to have lost it in exactly the same place. Some of the drivers were saying the track was a little bit slippery here. This crash happened exceptionally quickly. And luckily I was on the other side of the track to it. I saw some of the other photographers diving for cover as a car flew past them in bits. Esteban had gone too deep into the corner, hitting the end, pirouetting the car, and was flying backwards. In this shot you can see the damage the car sustained. It took the team a long time to repair the car. He was not able to compete in qualifying. It's always a bit hit and miss photographing crashes. Firstly, the car is moving in a completely different direction to what you're expecting. Secondly, they often happen at times of the session that you don't really expect it to happen. Quite often they happen at the point where you're doing arty, panning shots and the whole thing is blurred and completely useless. A long exposure crash usually is pretty worthless. Then you've got to control your own emotions. Seeing a crash produces a bit of a flight or fright emotion in us. It definitely gets the heart rate going. You've got to have that realization of what's going on. In a split second, you've got to calm yourself down, focus on the main subject, and just hold that trigger and hope for the best. Lando Norris. There are a few races that bring out the creativity in drivers. And I think Miami, with its vibrant culture, beautiful iconography, full-on Americana, has given teams the opportunity to play. This is Lando Norris's basketball helmet. It's absolutely brilliant. It's complete tongue-in-cheek, but beautifully rendered, and it looked stunning. It looked amazing on him. Lando has an absolutely brilliant sense of humor and is always doing something a little bit fun. As an example, the photo on his name tag is Beaker from the Muppets. His teammate Daniel Ricciardo also had a custom helmet. His was inspired by Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. Along with custom helmets, a lot of the drivers came with custom outfits. Here is Pierre in a number 10 Miami Dolphins shirt, and here is one of Fernando Alonso and his whole team kitted out in Miami-inspired kit. Even the car's got a Miami makeover. This shot of the Mercedes back wings shows the Miami-inspired livery. Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz. Both Ferraris produced phenomenal qualifying laps, putting them 1-2 on the grid, but Max seemed to have the race pace on the long runs. Max made a fantastic start, and in the first corner was able to get around the outside of Carlos Sainz. This shot has the two of them neck and neck. Max has already gone around the outside of turn 1, but then the track is going to open up for him and he'll take second place. That was a crucial move for him because he got past Carlos Sainz really quickly. That gave him free rein to attack Charles and take the lead. Towards the end of the race, a safety car was triggered when Lando Norris hit Pierre Gasly. That allowed the field to concertina together, and there was a very intense battle between Charles and Max to see who would take the lead. Max managed to hold off and win the first Miami Grand Prix. This shot was taken between turns 17 and 18. It's a fairly hard shot to pull off. You're on a slight corner, but you're shooting through the fences here. Max Verstappen and Kelly Piquet. The big kiss at the end of the race. Max climbs out of the car, he celebrates, he runs over to his team, he jumps on, gives them high fives, then takes off his helmet and his other paraphernalia. And then he looks over and he sees his girlfriend, Kelly Piquet, and runs towards her. This is the embrace, this is the kiss just after that. Christian Horner and Jerry Halliwell. This is taken at the podium celebration. Everyone's watching Max celebrating his win. I happened to turn around and got this great shot of pure excitement on Jerry's face. I have no idea what was happening behind me, but she seemed to enjoy it a lot. This kind of brings us full circle. A lot of people were expecting a race around a football stadium in a car park to be a rather dull, uninspiring affair, but actually it turned out to be a phenomenal race. It was a great blend of different sporting disciplines. We had many of the Miami Dolphin players, some basketball stars, Michael Jordan, all mixing in with Formula One fans. The facilities and the fan experience were incredible, and I love seeing how Formula One is embracing American culture. This is a great moment on the podium where Max is presented with a Miami Dolphins helmet and is holding it aloft like it's the trophy. The final shot is the ticker tape during the champagne celebration. You always feel that America does everything bigger and better, and the ticker tape here was no exception. You kind of feel that they had ticker tape for an entire football team, not just 3 drivers. In the end, we were completely covered. It was like paper mache. You couldn't see what was going on. The drivers were like mummies, just covered in ticker tape. It was actually quite funny. thank you very much for watching my review of the Miami Formula One Grand Prix. It was a phenomenal race, really good experience. If you have the opportunity to go, I thoroughly recommend it. If you enjoyed this, please give me a follow. There's going to be lots more.